What is the difference between project management and normal, what we call normal construction build? But first of all, I want to tell you about project management. There are lots of people out there calling themselves project managers or claim they provide a project management service. And they probably are, and they probably do. But their way, and we do it our way. As far as I'm aware, there is no strict rules as to what project management really is. You have a situation quite often where people wonder whether you go to college or go to university to learn to be a project manager, just the same as you do a bricklayer. And then you come out of that college and all of a sudden everybody's doing the project management in exactly the same way. Not so. And we do it our way. The same way as bricklayers will all be taught fundamentals of bricklaying or the fundamentals of bricklaying. But when they come out of it, they put their own tweaks to it once they're out there in the real world working, and they do things their own way. So it's all about the way we provide our project management service and what we do for our clients that we call project management. So basically, the starting point for this is, what do we do different between normal standard build and a project management service? Okay, so you're the client, you've come to us, you now have your planning permission, and you've come to us and you've said, okay, can you please give me a price for this job? Usually based on working drawings, as I've talked about before, and specification. But can you give me a price for our job, please? As a builder, I would go away and say, yes, absolutely, take your drawings, go away, price them up, and give you back a price in whatever format that would essentially lay out what I'm going to do for you and give you a total price. Not very often, depends on the tender format, because I could be pricing for an architect or an organisation which has a tender form and a tender sort of structure which we have to adhere to. They will ask how they want us to price a job. But that's another story. I don't want to go into that. We're talking about straightforward extension works for the normal person. Okay. So essentially, as I've said, we would go away, we would price it, we would lay out what we want to do for you, and then give you one price. And that one price is plus VAT. Okay. That is it. Now, what we do, and sorry, now let's stick with the builder. So then, if you like the builder's quote, you would then engage with that builder, instruct him to carry on with the works. He would more than likely ask for a payment up front in stages, or he would draw down lumps of that cost in stages afterwards, sort of throughout the job, not necessarily up front. You wouldn't really know whether you're paid for that stage of works that he's claiming for or not, because quite often so many trades get intermingled into one drawdown that it gets confusing. So as the layman, you can't be sure as to whether, the builder is claiming for the roof stage, but the roof is a massive, great big unit of work that can involve tilers, can involve plasterers, can involve felters, can involve carpenters, steel sheeters, you name it, it can all be involved. But all these trades can be involved. So quite often builders do draw down on this work, but having drawn that money down, quite often there is still a need for the plasterer to go in behind and make, or the cladders who have still got to clad a certain element of the roof. So you never quite know, is what I'm trying to say. You never quite know what you're paying for. And the same happens throughout the job as it progresses, because you know that you can be at roof stage, but at the same time you've got plasterers inside. You may have ground workers outside doing some patio work, all simultaneously. Yet the builder is drawing down these drawdowns. And even though he's saying, this is phase 3 roof, there will inevitably be elements of other work in there too. Okay, so the whole thing gets confusing. The drawdown is finance money terms. So you're given a price, and within that price, we then say, the builder will then say, right, okay, I would like drawdowns for each stage of work, whereupon I will draw down a segment of that money, of that price, okay, which will be pre-agreed. So let's just say the job's £20,000. We'll probably have 5 drawdowns, 5 evenly spaced drawdowns of that £20,000. But we'll head them and say, you know, foundation works, substructure works, and so on, second fix. I mean, first fix, second fix. Who knows what that entails? You know, where does the first fix element start and where does it finish? Do you know as the layman? Not really. But you've got nothing to revert to. You might have a program of work, a schedule of works, but for the size of job, you know, if your job's going to be £100,000, £150,000, it's not going to warrant the builders, the architects, or whomever, independent quantity surveyor, to chart up exactly a sort of Gantt chart that is going to enable you to follow exactly what's being done, where and when, and what to draw down. You're not going to want to spend, I don't know, £4,000 getting that sort of information drawn up. So likely, more than not, you're just going to say to the builder, okay, yeah, I'll take you at your word. I've got most of what you say written down in writing. I understand there is a contract between us, and I understand we're going to be making the drawdowns. Still a lot of grey spaces, a lot of grey spaces. Now, the difference in the project management that we offer, the style of project management we offer, is much more fluid and much more transparent. So what would happen is the same happens again. You come to us with your drawings all completed. You've now got building regulations. You've now got your planning permission. I'm working from a set of working drawings. I will now give you an absolute breakdown of every element, labour, materials, etc., all the way through. You are then furnished with that document at the end. Now, when you have that document, you will know exactly how much work how much work you're expecting to be placed in each section, how much materials you're expecting to buy through each section. So that will act as a tracker for you, a financial tracker, and also to some extent a time tracker, okay? Because you'll have this document that is quite varied on a good size spreadsheet, I suppose we could say, that will have all the individual elements in for you to follow. Okay, so let's just say, for example, foundations. Let me give you an example of a basic difference between a builder drawing on foundations and the project management drawing on foundations. Now, the first thing you need to know is the builder funds everything. So he will buy all the materials, he will buy all the labour, and he will fund that element of work, the foundations. And then he will draw down an amount of money that you will believe is just for the foundations. What our style of project management does is almost the opposite. You're in charge of your money. You pay on a pay-as-you-go basis. Because we don't fund the work, we are strictly fee-based, and if I may say, just digress slightly, our fee is never any more than a builder's profit margin, so we should be in line with each other. But because we're fee-based, we open accounts for materials and with suppliers in your name. So you're completely aware at all times of exactly how much you're spending for labour and materials. Now, not only will you know what to expect before the work starts, because you'll have a document that says foundations, subtitle foundations, then it will have dig out, concrete, plant involved, labour involved, okay? So, and it will have the quantity involved. So let's just say you will have a document that says foundations, dig out, I don't know, let's say 10 cubic metres. You will know then that you're expecting to dig out and cart away 10 cubic metres of earth. You will know how many skips are involved, how much cart away, as we call it, is involved in that dig out. You will then know how much concrete you're expected to put in. So we'll say, I don't know, say 9 cubic meters of concrete to go back in. There will be a price next to that 9 cubic meters. You will then know how much it will cost you to lay that 9 cubic meters in labour, how much it will cost you in dig out, in labour, to dig out and cart away. So you will see all those individual elements, you know straight away. Now, here's the thing. Here's the big thing. Let's just say, for example, the drawings that have been prepared by a different architect are pretty generic, as they are in a lot of cases, because without digging trial holes, which I hasten to add, they really should, but these days everybody seems to be getting lazier. Without digging trial holes, nobody can really know what is underground. So an architect will normally be pretty generic in his design, and he will say, foundations, you'll mark it on the drawings, foundations 1 meter deep. So 1 meter deep by 600 wide, generally. Okay. Now that's great. So you're digging away. The building inspector has to be called out to inspect the foundations. Normally he's called out just before you finish digging. So the builder's inspector's come out and he's seen such good ground. He's saying, whoa, 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 hang on, chaps. You don't need to go 1 meter deep. I'm quite happy with you only being 700 deep. That is very good ground. Please continue. You're only digging out good ground just to put concrete in. So carry on at 700. Well, straight away, you have a 300 millimeter saving in dig, a 300 millimeter saving in carting away, and a 300 millimeter saving in concrete going back in the ground. So you know that straight away. Now, you'll also be aware of it because you're buying the materials through us with the benefit of our discounts that are passed on to you because you're under the Mortar Co umbrella, which has fantastic buying power, which all gets passed on to you, which again you will know because you're the first recipients of all the invoices before they come to us. You'll be able to match all this to the charts, to the program as well, and the spreadsheet. So you will know, great, I've made a saving. I can save that money I've made now and either bank it or buy a better kitchen with it if I'm going to have a kitchen in my extension, say. I can put more of that money towards my kitchen. However, the builder, and I would say 9.9 times out of 10, is not going to say, oh, whilst you was at work, the building inspector came out and said, you don't need to go 1 meter deep, chaps. You can stay at 700. What a saving. I've got to give you some money back. He's not going to say that, is he? We all know he's not going to say that. So he's just, all he's going to have done is increased his profit margin, in that morning's work. Great. Good for him. That's how it works. Remember, you're never paying us any money for labour and materials. We are fee-based. It's pre-arranged. You know what our fee is at the start of the job. So we're not going to charge you any more. But I've got to warn you, there is a downside to it as well. Because on the other side of things, there is a situation where the building inspector comes out and says, oh, my word, those foundations are not deep enough. That is bad ground. We need you to go to, say, 1,300 depth. Okay, straight away, you've got a 300 mil extra dig, 300 mil extra cart away, and so on. Okay, so there is extra work that you're going to have to pay for. But the thing is, the builder is more odds than not going to tell you what discounted rate he's paying for his concrete and his labour. He's going to charge you back the additional work at his retail rate, because he wants to make his profit. Not so with our style of project management, because you know how much you're paying for the labour and you know how much you're paying for the concrete. So whatever addition has to be made, you're winning again because you're only paying cost. You'll know that because you're paying the bills. So that is the starting point of how our project management works differently to a builder. But this is the thing. What we offer in our style of project management is what I believe to be a straightforward, uncomplicated form of project management. That is to say that we run everything for you. We hold your hand. We are not the builders. All the individuals and the different labour, elements of labour being the carpenters, the plasterers, they're the builders. We control them, we supervise them, and we make sure that they do correctly what they're set out to do. We're not there to cut any corners. We're there. Our job is to look after you and your interest, to make sure that we're giving you quality, to make sure that you're getting honesty and accuracy, no matter what. Whether it means we have to come back to you and say, this is unforeseen, you're going to have to pay more, or whether it means giving you money back. The builder, when the builder works for you, it's a case of you and them. You know, he is in it for himself. He's going to make as much money as he possibly can. Okay. He is going to cut corners if he sees an opportunity to cut corners without doing anything dangerous. I mean, this is not to imply that all builders are dodgy, because that is not true. There are some wonderful, fantastic, honest, hard-working, brilliant builders out there. But at the end of the day, business is business and profit is profit. But I have to differentiate. It's important to differentiate. Our business is our fee, nothing else. The more we save you, but at the same time, the more money we save you, but at the same time, the more quality we give you, the more accuracy we give you, the more transparency we give you, the more likely you are to recommend us to just about everybody else you meet in the town, the pub, the doctor's surgery, wherever you may congregate and meet people. The more likely you are to say, do you know what, you've got to go with those Mortar Co. They are brilliant. They really did a good job for me, you know, and I paid basically cost plus their fee. Okay, and that was it. And I know I paid cost because they negotiated all the discounts for me, which, and you are paying the invoices direct. What happens with the invoice situation is this, is that we have, let's just take Travis Perkins. We would start with you and we would say, right, we would go to Travis Perkins and say, look, we've got a new job, Mr. and Mrs. Smith at 55 King Street, new job. It's got to go under the Mortar Co umbrella. So straight away, Travis Perkins open an account for you in your name at your address, but you all straight away become privy to our buying power. Now, the reason why our buying power is good is because we do a lot of work for a lot of people, but we don't fund any work, which means we can do as much work as we like, rather than the smaller builder can only do as much work as he can afford to fund. Okay. Now, that can be restrictive on him. It means that he can't necessarily do as much work as he'd like to. So consequently, he can't demand the discounts that he would like to equally, because he's only buying so much per month. Exactly that. Whereas we're different, because we could probably have anywhere between 4 and 8 different clients coming in at any one time, who are all individuals, all spending lots of money. But that increases our buying power. So consequently, the builders merchants like us, because we're like a glorified rep to them. But we say to the merchants, we say, look, hang on, it's okay us giving you all this work, but in return, if you're going to have a lot of Mr. Smith's work, we need something to give him back. So in return, we get the good rates. You become the benefactor of those fantastic rates. So what happens is, we buy our materials. It's all computerized, all purchase order controlled with sequential numbers. Okay, so nothing can be, builders can't go in and say, oh, I'm Mr. and Mrs. Smith's account, you put a pack of bricks on the back of my lorry, you know, and put something to their account. Can't happen unless a computerized sequential number numbered purchase order comes from our office direct to the merchants. Then they will not supply. And equally, if you ever receive an invoice without those numbers on, you don't pay. The merchants know it, we know it, everybody knows it. So it's strictly controlled. But so we purchase that. What happens is then, away down the line, you then get an invoice come through your door. You then copy those invoices, send us the copy. We check them through against our POs and any other information, delivery notes, etc. Although at the moment with COVID, delivery notes are a bit of a no-no. And then we write back to you and say, yes, this is good to pay, or you might have an invoice that's got 6 items on, one of which we returned. We say, no, pay that amount, but don't pay that because that was returned. So all the time you're getting the benefit of this check-in system at a cost rate, and you're buying at a hugely discounted rate as well. So these are all elements that you will never have with a builder, because he's just given you a price. You've got that price. That's the end of it. Whatever he makes over and above his profit margin, he's going to make. And he will make it because he wants to. We're interested in saving the profit for you. We're not interested in, we can't make any money with people like Travis Perkins. We don't make money by them. Our money, as I keep saying, is only fee-based. It comes from you, which is why it's imperative that we do a proper job for you guys, because we need you. We need as many clients like you paying us fees as often as we can. There are no hiding places for what we do. So going back to what I was saying, we hold your hand. It's in our interest to hold your hand through the whole job, give you advice that is impartial. So in other words, we know that whatever advice we give you on how to nail roof tiles down, is it better to have the plumber in taking his pipes around the outside of the wall rather than inside? Is it better that we have the plasterers before the plumbers or before the electricians on this occasion? Unlike a builder who would say, he's just interested in getting it all done. We would tell you why we're probably taking an unorthodox approach on that particular occasion as opposed to the more orthodox approach, because we know it's going to save you money. It's going to be beneficial. We know that we can guarantee the quality that we're looking at that we're looking to provide you. Because you see, every job is different. Every job is bespoke. Every job is almost like, for want of a better expression, it's almost like a concept design, and that's what we do. And people that believe that building is standard or becomes standardized are deluded, because it's not. Every job is different.
And so I'm just thinking of a scenario as well where, say, you go down with the builder route, not the project management route, and as a client, I'm paying the builder. That builder then gets into some kind of financial difficulty. Maybe he can't meet his bills. He's not paying the suppliers for the job. Is there a chance there that the whole project can basically come down because he might stretch himself too thin on this job, that job, that
absolutely
he can't?
Brilliant point made. Absolutely. And then let me give you examples. As I say, the builder funds everything himself. Okay, if he's not paying his bills, if he's not paying his suppliers, he can be on stop. If he's on stop, invariably that's going to have an effect on your job, because you're not going to be able to get supplies. He's not going to be able to buy supplies to continue with the work, to keep the job flowing, to keep the job on time. He's going to be affected. He's relying on other people paying him. If he experiences a financial situation through no fault of his own, just he's got another bad client that hasn't paid him, won't pay him, it could face anything from going bankrupt, worst case scenario, to having to come to you and say, look, I've got a bit of a hold up, I haven't been paid on this job, I can't afford to pay for the plasterers to get there, so it means a bit of a hold up, and you might have to rejig things around outside of the pre-agreed contract. That doesn't happen with us, because if I've got 8 clients, if Mortar Co has 8 clients going at one time, and all of a sudden one of those clients falls into financial difficulty and can't pay, stop. We stop on that job. The job stops. It doesn't affect any of the other clients because they are all individual roads going into the suppliers. And as long as they're paying their bills, they're fine. We have riders on our purchase orders that say things like, that we're not responsible. Mortar Co are not responsible for the paying of this purchase. The client is. So as long as our clients are paying their bills on time, then our jobs will always run as smoothly and as quickly as they are supposed to run. And not one job will ever affect the other job. As a company, it's fair to say, as Mortar Co as a company, we have, as you can imagine, very little overhead. Other than the phones, we don't pay labour, we don't pay staff, we have no vehicles. Everything is subbed in. I mean, to the naked eye or to the layman, we just look like builders, because the service is exactly the same. The service we provide to you, you can sit back and just take it, just like you can with a builder. And I make sure that everybody's coordinated properly, all the materials are coordinated properly, the purchasing is coordinated, the job runs as it's supposed to run. You know, I am there managing that for you, project managing that for you properly to make sure everything runs properly. But we do it our way, which is hugely beneficial to the client. And whilst we're doing this, you become the benefactor of some amazing discounts in all sorts of areas and all sorts of aspects of the build, which you wouldn't get, and I know you can't get from going down the normal standard building route.
Yeah. And then, so is there any differences then? Like I keep hearing, whenever you Google anything online about building, you always come up with, you know, there's this thing called a JCT contract or an FMB contract. Does it still mean that you have something like that in place?
Of course. I mean, the thing is, there are JCT contracts. JCT, in the first place, is the standard form of contract for the construction industry, and it's hard keeping up with it. But there are, I mean, there used to be minor works. I think it was intermediary works and large works. It wasn't called large. Major works, I think they were called. Major, minor, intermediary and major works. There are now contracts for project management, and there are all types of JCT contracts. They're not particularly onerous, certainly down in the lower leagues, in the minor contracts and the like the intermediary contracts, but they can have inherent issues that are built into that contract that mean you know, where if a situation arises between the builder or the project manager and the client, you know, the job has to be stopped before it can be negotiated through and before it can be mediated, if you like, and discussed. Whereas, you know, other contracts don't necessarily have those sorts of formalities, which and sometimes they can be a bit of a hindrance to the job, especially if, for example, let's just give you an example. We're on a job, we're at a critical point in the job, and we're just going into the winter wet months and the roof's off. All of a sudden an issue arises. Sometimes, more often than not, there are clauses within a JCT contract where it demands the job stops until we get over it. Okay, stopping a job, you know, you have to keep it safe and all the rest of it. But we all know that it could stop for any amount of time. So things that have been put in place to keep it safe, like tarpaulins and everything, could blow off while there's no men on site. You know, you don't need things like that in your life. I mean, quite often I've done lots of contracts where, you know, we work on the basics that you've got of offer, acceptance and consideration, which does form, and then you've got evidence, of course, but offer, acceptance and consideration does form the basis of most contracts. They're just not over embellished and over complicated. So, you know, we make an offer, is the offer being the quotation. The acceptance is the fact that the client will write back to us in writing and say, yes, we agree with your quotation and we want to accept it and instruct you. Okay, so you've now got offer, you've then got acceptance, and then consideration is a payment. So once the payment has been made by the client and accepted by us, the project management, in effect, you have offer, acceptance, consideration. Peripherally, you have consideration, you have evidence, which is all there then. The evidence is the offer in writing, the acceptance in writing, the fact that money is passed hands, you know, and you can see this on statements and all the rest of it. So, and that quite often has been enough to start jobs and complete them very successfully. We also have our own form of contract, which, you know, we advise every client to take to a solicitor before they agree to sign it. It's not very onerous. It's quite straightforward, quite simple. We believe it protects us and the client. And we believe at the lower levels, and I call it the lower levels, I don't mean to be offensive, but when I say lower levels, I mean the smaller size extensions, the smaller size jobs. They're better. We find them better, and our customers find them better and easier to use than, say, the standard form of contracts, the more complicated JCTs. So, yeah. go project management.